Hello there and welcome to another video. This time for our what you may or may not have known about this Doctor Who story, we're going to have a look at Dalek, the first time the Daleks appear in the rebooted era, and perhaps one of the most popular and beloved episodes. So without further ado, let's just go through some random facts that you may or may not have known about. A fact that many of you may already know is the fact that Dalek is based on the audiobook by Big Finished, Jubilee, which was written by Robert Sherman. Sherman is also the guy who wrote this story, and there are quite notable similarities, such as the fact that the Dalek and the Doctor meet each other in the dark, and the scene is almost a frame-by-frame encounter. However, there's also another similarity in the fact that the companion and the Dalek sort of become friends, I guess you could say. Well, not necessarily friends, but allies, I guess you could say. The Dalek itself went through several different changes before the bronze look. Initially it was a grey like the classic era, then a camouflage army green look, which was then changed to a plainer green look, which ironically this green look would be used for the Ironside Daleks in Victory of the Daleks. Another design was a red and gold Dalek, as well as a red and black Dalek, which would be used for the Supreme Dalek in Stolen Earth. A gold and black orb design was similar to Day of the Daleks, was also used as a template for the Dalek design, as well as a silver design with red tattoos, which is perhaps the most interesting look of the Dalek designs, before they finally settled on the bronze look that we all know and love. What's quite interesting is that the bronze look was initially criticised by tabloids for making the Daleks look silly and appear all blinged up. Ironically, this design would go on to last and is the most prominent design of the Daleks to date. Initially, the Daleks' looks were originally going to be more akin to its classic looks, with white eye, smooth dome, and the colour choices being more grey. However, the design was modified obviously to be bronze and to have protection around the stalk, as well as an ID tag at the bottom of the stalk and indents all over the dome. This was basically done so that the Dalek looks recognisable while also having a slightly updated design. The Cyberman head that appears in the museum is actually a Cyber Nomad head from Revenge of the Cybermen. This is the only Dalek story in the Russell T Davies era to be a standalone, as others would include other species or be a two-parter. As many of you know, there was a lot of trouble getting the rights to the Daleks, and had the Daleks been available, a new monster would have been created. Similar to the Daleks in this sense, it was going to involve a mutant human inside a metal shell. These were in fact the Toclafane, which would later appear in The Sound of Drums, because as you all know, a good idea never goes to waste. This is the first Dalek story without of the Daleks and not to feature Davros since Death to the Daleks. Robert Sherman was initially upset with Eccleston because in his script the Doctor was meant to mock and play around with the Dalek when they first encounter. However, Eccleston wanted to show pain, anger and suffering from the Doctor having gone through the Time War. In fact, Eccleston got so involved that he accidentally foamed at the mouth. This obviously would go on to be one of the most infamous scenes in the show and obviously one of the most beloved, so credit to Eccleston there. Dalek serves the purpose to reintroduce the Daleks to a new audience. One thing that Robert Sherman wanted to show off was the more so-called sillier aspects of the Daleks, such as the often joked about inability to go upstairs, or the plunger being an actual threat. The script went through hell and went through several changes as Robert Sherman struggled to adapt Jubilee. Initially, the script had Van Statten being a family man who wanted the Daleks to say happy birthday to him and by torturing it. Another focused on more side characters and less on the Dalek. In fact, the title was going to be The Creature of Lies. Russell T Davies wasn't impressed with most of these scripts and wanted the story itself to mainly focus on the Dalek. Interestingly, the one thing that survived in all the scripts and in the final product was the Doctor selecting weapons and jokingly calling one a hairdryer. The Japanese title of Dalek is called The Lonely Beast, while the Hungarian title was called The Old Enemy. Whilst this isn't the first time a Dalek mutant is seen, it is the first time a Dalek mutant is shown and speaking. This is also the second time a Dalek flies, the first being in remembrance of the Daleks. The Dalek was controlled by two people. There was one person who controlled the dome and the lights, while another person was, as traditional, was inside the Dalek moving it and using the weapons. Interestingly, the Daleks shown in this episode, the Metaltron, would be reused in the finale, but more interestingly is the fact that this same Dalek would actually be painted black and used for Dalek Sec. So that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something new. You may or may not have known these facts, but nonetheless, see you next time.